The Stations of the Cross is a devotion that began as a pilgrimage for non-travelers. It is a journey in spirit to the place where Jesus suffered and died. The fact that we generally make this journey while at church or in the classroom or the comfort of our home without the inconvenience of travel does not make it safe and predictable. Following Jesus always involves risk. The Way of the Cross is still a mini pilgrimage to the sites of Jesus' passion and death, but it's also a challenging and often disturbing journey within ourselves as we accompany Jesus to Calvary Hill. We can't fail to see that he provokes a variety of negative responses from those around him: cruelty, indifference, outright rejection, mockery, disgust, ignorant curiosity. And some of these reactions, we must admit, live inside of us. The Way of the Cross is a moment of truth. It confronts us with some hard questions about ourselves, about our attitudes, and what our ordinary, everyday life choices show about where our hearts are. Are we taking up our crosses and following Christ? Are we recognizing and responding to Jesus in the suffering of others? To follow the Way of the Cross in this spirit is to affirm once again our decision to walk the road that leads to life. The first station: Jesus is condemned to die. Jesus was not intimidated by Pilate's power and the lies of the people. He had spent his life standing up for truth and justice. He wasn't going to stop now. It is nerve-wracking when we're called to stand up for what is right. It's tempting to say nothing, especially if ours is a lone voice. But if we fail to speak out, we feel uneasy because we know we're not being true to ourselves, to the person that God called us to be. The second station: Jesus takes up his cross. Jesus was used to being pointed at. He didn't act like other people. He didn't fit in. He was different. But many had admired Jesus' new teaching. Now things were beginning to change. In just a few hours, Jesus was mocked and rejected by almost everyone. It is a terrible feeling to be mocked and rejected. It eats away at our self-worth. We doubt ourselves and we ask, what's wrong with us? But often the answer does not lie with us, but with the offender. The third station: Jesus falls the first time. It must have taken a while for Jesus to adjust to the weight of the rough wooden cross. His first steps would have been unsure, made worse by the push and shove of the jeering onlookers. Without help, he was bound to fall. Whenever we enter a new stage of life, it takes a while to adjust. Starting a new school, moving to a new area, growing into adulthood. It's easy to stumble as we try to work out where we fit in and whom we can trust. The fourth station: Jesus meets his mother. The words of the angel must seem like a distant memory for Mary. Her hopes for her son now appear dashed as she sees Jesus in pain, dejected and humiliated. Since his birth, she has cared for him. Now, as he carries his cross, she can do no more than watch. It can be difficult for our families to watch us as we become more independent and struggle with life's challenges. They worry that we might make the wrong choices. Sometimes this hurts all of us, but we know that whatever happens, they love us and want the best for us. The fifth station: Simon helps Jesus carry his cross. Simon didn't want to get involved. He was just trying to pass through the crowd and get on with his day. But he was picked out and forced to help. He did, and it changed his life forever. Sometimes we turn away when we're asked to help. We feel there's little we can offer, or we're afraid to make a fool of ourselves. But the world is changed by people stepping forward to do whatever they can to share the burden of another. The sixth station. Veronica wipes Jesus' face. Little is known of Veronica. All we're told is that she stepped from the angry crowd to wipe Jesus' bloody face. It's often said how brave she must have been to do this, but maybe it was her sense of compassion that was too strong to stop her offering the little care she could give. Compassion means we feel the pain of another deep in our heart. It allows us to identify with their struggles. It can cost us tears and make us feel small. Yet it can motivate us to step out of our ordinariness to help ease the world's suffering. It's a gift to all. The seventh station. Jesus falls a second time. The wood of the cross and the people's rejection must have weighed heavier and heavier on Jesus' body and heart. It must have been ever harder to go on as he stumbled through the streets of Jerusalem. Sometimes life delivers a series of blows, and we feel as if we can't take it anymore. It's then when we recognize the value of resilience. Resilience is the ability to recover after setbacks. It is strengthened by faith that no matter how low we feel, with God's help, we can rise up again. The eighth station. Jesus meets the women of Jerusalem. Amidst the jeering crowd, there was a group of women who refused to turn their back on their friend and teacher. They withstood pressure to deny him or run away. Although it made them outsiders, their faith in him remained steadfast. It can be difficult to live out our faith when the world around doesn't. We can feel pressure into fitting in by not wanting to stand out. It takes courage to remain faithful to a way of life and to support others as they follow their chosen path. The ninth station. Jesus falls a third time. Jesus had almost reached the end. By his third fall, many would have considered him a failure. How could someone who performed miracles and awed thousands now look so weak and hopeless? The world has always prized successful people, but the lessons of the cross show us that it is human to fail. With God, however, we can't stay down. He lets our failures teach us to be humble, resilient, and forgiving, not just of our own errors, but those of others too. The 10th station. Jesus is stripped. After falling under the weight of carrying a criminal's cross, being jeered at and considered a failure, Jesus' dignity is now stripped away further as the soldiers take his clothes and leave him naked. We know we're made in the image of God and that we have an inbuilt dignity that deserves the utmost respect. Sometimes we don't act in a way that's worthy of this when we don't respect ourselves by our own words and actions, or when we fail to acknowledge that others have their God-given dignity too. The 11th station. Jesus is nailed to the cross. It is difficult to know what caused Jesus' greatest suffering, the physical pain of being nailed to the cross, or the cruel injustice inflicted on him by others. The cruelty that we see in the news and in our community can make us feel sad and confused. How can some people be so mean? Why doesn't God do something? Then I remember He did. He made us. The 12th station, Jesus dies on the cross. It is shocking to think that at this, His darkest hour, even Jesus doubted the Father's presence. Shocking, too, for those gathered to watch. Is this how it ends? Have God and goodness gone? It can be unnerving when someone that we look up to begins to doubt themselves. We expect them to always be sure to inspire and to guide. Should I now doubt them as well? Should we remain loyal and help restore their faith? The 13th station, Jesus is taken down from the cross. Joseph of Arimathea was a follower of Jesus. Unable to prevent his degrading death, Joseph and a few other loyal followers now do all they can to ensure Jesus is finally treated with dignity and care. It saddens us when cemeteries are vandalized. It suggests that the deaths are no longer worthy of respect. But Christ taught us that life is changed when we die, not ended. So we'll continue to pay our respects as best as we can because love and dignity never ends. The 14th station, Jesus is laid in the tomb. It's apt that Jesus' tomb was located in a garden, a place where the cycle of death and new life is witnessed as the seasons pass. When they laid Jesus in the tomb, his followers had no idea of the new life that was beginning to rise, a life that would change all time. We're so used to seeing suffering and death in our world. The news appears to report nothing else. But the lessons of the cross teaches us to keep our eyes and hearts open for new signs of new beginnings. God's love and light are always at work, especially in the darkest of times. He was born in an obscure village, the child of a peasant woman. He grew up in another obscure village where he worked in a carpenter's shop until he was 30 when public opinion turned against him. He never wrote a book, he never held office, he never went to college, he never visited a big city, he never traveled more than 200 miles from the place where he was born. He did none of the things usually associated with greatness. He had no credentials but himself. He was only 33. His friends ran away. One of them denied him. He was turned over to his enemies and went through the mockery of a trial. He was nailed to a cross between two thieves. While dying, his executioner gambled for his clothing, the only property he had on earth. When he was dead, he was laid in a borrowed grave through the pity of a friend. 20 centuries have come and gone, and today, Jesus, you are the central figure of the human race and the leader of mankind's progress. All the armies that ever marched, all the navies that have ever sailed, all the parliaments that have ever sat, all the kings that have ever reigned put together have not affected the life of mankind on earth as powerfully as your one solitary life.